Oh, Oprah, you never cease to amaze me. Review The World Ends With You. You have 60 minutes. Fail and face erasure. How did I die? The World Ends With You is an action RPG released for the Nintendo DS. It was developed by Jupiter, remember those guys? And Square Enix, makers of some of the most memorable RPGs of all time. The game takes place in a fictional version of Shibuya, Japan. Our story follows Neku Sakuraba, a 15-year-old boy that has grown up in Shibuya his whole life. Neku is a bit of a loner. He feels no need to interact with society and likes to keep to himself. Neku finds himself in the middle of Shibuya one day, unable to recall anything but his name. When he wakes up, he finds a strange pin that allows him to read people's minds. Suddenly, his cell phone goes off. He receives a rather cryptic text message reading, "Reach 10-4. You have 60 minutes. Fail and face erasure." Suddenly, he finds a strange-looking timer on his hand and gets attacked by frogs. Neku has entered the Reaper's game, a game where people who have died may fight for a chance at life once again by completing various missions for one entire week. He later meets a young girl named Shiki Misaki. The two forge a pact and become partners. The duo must work together to complete various challenges throughout the week to earn the second chance at life that they're striving for. Certain circumstances occur within the game, which I'm not going to go into too much detail about, to avoid spoilers of course, giving you access to working with 3 different characters as partners. It's an extremely interesting plot, and I never felt myself rushing through the cutscenes because the characters weren't saying anything important. You'll really feel for these characters in the game, and you'll want to see them succeed in the fight for their lives. Literally. The game is your standard JRPG affair, for the most part. You'll complete various quests for NPCs in order to complete each mission. You'll also be fighting creatures called noise. An example would be those frogs we saw earlier. The combat is primarily action-based, but there is a rather detailed battle system that goes along with it. Each battle with the noise takes place on both the top and bottom screens of the DS. It sounds rather confusing, but it's a lot easier to handle than you'd think. We'll start with Neku on the bottom screen and work our way up. To begin a fight, you'll need to press the player pin on the bottom right corner of the screen and select the noise icons. You can chain up to 4 noise at a time. To attack, you'll need to use pins. Pins can be collected by purchasing them at shops, getting them from various NPCs, or as item drops by enemies. These drops will increase in frequency depending on how you scale both your levels and the game's difficulty, and how big your noise chain is. The pins each have specific abilities and functions that can be quite useful and unique. However, there are many pins that you'll want to use as replacements for your old ones because they can level up further and have better stats as time goes on. To perform each pin's technique, you'll need to execute the proper commands on the touchscreen. Pins also have a limited amount of uses before they must recharge. No worries though, they recharge after just a few seconds in battle. The best strategy would be to use each pin one by one so you can still attack while others are charging up. The touch controls are responsive about 95% of the time. I do sometimes find that the game is struggling to choose which pin I really want to use because a lot of them do have similar swipe commands. Also, there were times that I wanted to swipe Neku out of the way of an enemy's attack, and I ended up trying to attack them back instead of moving out of the way, which would cause me to take some damage. It's very rare that this will happen to you, but it's just a minor nitpick that I had. There's also a side minigame involving these pins called Tin Pin Slammer. It's a game where you take your active deck of pins and fight against other pins using various attacks and the main form of combat, slamming into each other. It's pretty basic and rarely shows up in the main story, so it's not really something that you're going to be buying the game for. Neku's partner for the week will pop a squad on the top screen, where they'll be controlled by the D-pad. His first partner, Shiki, uses the pictures on her cards to attack. If you manage to match all 3 of her cards, then you'll come closer and closer to forming a fusion. Each fusion is basically an ultimate attack, where each partner syncs up properly and unleashes all their power on every enemy on the field. The more matches you make, the stronger the fusion will be. The same goes for Neku's other 2 partners, Joshua and Beat. For spoiler reasons though, I'm not going to be talking very much about them. The battle system may be a bit too much to handle at first, so thankfully you can turn Shiki and the other partners on autopilot. However, you are going to want to get good at using both screens. It's not that hard after a while, and you'll need to do it manually for the later parts of the game, because trust me, the AI can get pretty sucky. Like most RPGs, the characters have stats and can level up. To build up stats, you can use clothes. Clothes in this game are like armor in other games. They of course cost money, and you can earn money by defeating noise. Taking inspiration from the cultural hotspot that is Shibuya, the brands that are more popular can bring you better stats, and the pins in that brand will be more powerful in battle. The more you use a certain pin, the more popular that brand will become, thus increasing your power. You can also permanently raise stats by feeding your characters food. You'll buy food with the yen that you earn in battles, just like clothes. Please do this from the start of the game to save time level grinding in the end like I did. Equip the food item to raise certain stats. Then, to eat the food, fight off noise. Each battle will slowly cause you to eat more and more of the food until it's fully eaten and you get your stat boost. Pro tip, don't equip food or clothing to your partners ever. Only focus on Neku for the main story. Trust me, he's the only one that matters in the long run. Okay, so I'm pretty sure your brain is probably in agony from all that, so let's take a break and talk about some similar stuff, the presentation. The overworld and battle sprites are quite polished, and the enemies are very creative as well. They draw inspiration from real-world animals, but add a nice twist to them. The environments are lively and fun to explore. However, since the game takes place in Shibuya, and only Shibuya, you'll find yourself going back and forth to some of the same locations many times. So don't go around expecting huge grasslands, beaches, and beautiful forests like most JRPGs have. This is an urban setting and theme, and the game is very creative in how it uses it. The game's cutscenes are shown to you through manga-styled speech bubbles. The characters will also throw in a voice clip or two, depending on the situation at hand. I would have liked it if we had a little bit more fully voice-acted sections, but it doesn't take away from the experience in my opinion. There aren't very many fully animated sequences in the game, but that's sort of the point. It's almost like you're playing a manga video game with an anime soundtrack, and it's fantastic. Speaking of the soundtrack, we get an amazing assortment of songs that play throughout the game. While most games choose just one theme for each battle and area, The World Ends With You will pick just one song from its many different titles in the soundtrack. This ensures that you probably won't get bored of the songs that play because a different one will play each time. You never know what's going to be playing in the background as you fight off the noise. And considering how many battles you're going to be in, this is a great thing. The soundtrack covers a number of different genres, and I even find myself listening to some of the songs for fun sometimes. In conclusion, The World Ends With You is a fantastic game that immerses you into its world while not being insanely over the top with its presentation values. It's the story that engulfs you in the world and makes you feel for the characters. It also has a very unique gameplay style, and I never felt like fighting enemies was a chore. The music is very enjoyable and brings the urban theme together very well. I'm sure it sounds like I'm gushing over the game right now, but I really didn't find many things I didn't like about it. The controls, like I said, do take a little getting used to, and the stylus commands are a bit finicky sometimes, but the good truly do outweigh the bad in this situation. The World Ends With You does not get nearly the amount of recognition it deserves, and I hope one day we do see a sequel to this game. I give The World Ends With You a 9 out of 10. It's a great game. I think you're all going to really enjoy it if you pick it up, so definitely go give it a chance. Try and find yourself a copy. If you can't find a physical copy, I know there's an iOS port of the game. I don't know how that holds up to the original. I know the gameplay is a bit different, but the story is still the same, and the graphics and music are still the same too. So you can check that out. I personally haven't bought it because that shit is expensive. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it, and I will see you guys next time with more videos.